Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. The woke hypocrisy. The leftoids tell us, how could you possibly be racist if you claim to be anti-racist? The leftoids say, we're allies, we're anti-racist. But what they don't seem to get is that the definition of anti-racist isn't defined as being racist to white people in order to even the playing field. That's reverse racism, and it exists regardless of what leftoids will tell you. Immediately as you mention reverse racism, the NPCs react. Reverse racism doesn't really exist, they tell you. Power dynamics. My new definition of racism which justifies my ridiculous worldview. No, dummy. Racism exists regardless of the group that it's directed at. And this is where the irony comes in. I mean, ironically enough, the anti-racist left has become the most racist group in America. I mean, at this point, I think it's very hard to argue against that. It seems as though the main woke policy proposal when it comes to tackling racism is taking things away from white people, letting white people suffer, making white people pay, attacking the concept and the idea of whiteness, shaming white people, shaming white children, and discriminating against them in various different ways. Whether it comes to college admissions, grants, you name it, the list goes on and on. Of course, how could I forget the hiring process? Like I said, tackling racism with racism. How incredibly stupid, and here we go, Kamala Harris has bought into the doctrine, into the woke anti-white doctrine, and she is getting absolutely slammed for this comment that she made just the other day. Let me show you guys exactly what's going on here. We've got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright friends, so here's the context. Here's what Kamala Harris said in relation to disaster relief and the current emergency response going on in Florida with Hurricane Ian.
It is our lowest income communities and our communities of color that are most impacted by these extreme conditions and impacted by issues that are not of their own making. And so women. Absolutely. And so we have to address this in a way that is about giving resources based on equity, understanding that we fight for equality, but we also need to fight for equity, understanding not everyone starts out at the same place. And if we want people to be in an equal place, sometimes we have to take into account those disparities and do that work.
Well, there you have it, folks. Every single left-wing woke buzzword you could possibly imagine, all centering around the idea of equity. But what they mean by equity is discrimination against white people. During natural disasters, white people should be neglected as a later priority solely based on the color of their skin, while people of color should be the absolute #1 priority when it comes to response, relief, and everything related. That is an absolutely despicable stance to take. This is what people mean when they say that wokeism is discriminatory. I mean, could you imagine the feeling if you've lost everything, then you turn on the TV and you see the Vice President of the United States saying that, well, you just aren't a priority because of the color of your skin. This is what has people so, frankly, pissed off. The idea that underprivileged, poor white people don't exist. At least they don't exist in the minds of liberal elitists. Well, surprise, surprise, there's more poor white people in the United States than there are of any other demographic. The percentage might be a little bit different, but in terms of sheer numbers of them, there's a whole lot more. And of course, I don't know this for a fact, but just based on logical thinking, I'm just gonna go out on a limb here and assume that the areas that are worse impacted by a natural disaster like this are rural areas, where the homes aren't necessarily built in a way to withstand a hurricane. What immediately comes to mind is possibly trailer parks and trailer homes. And one thing I know for sure is that those communities are majority white folk. The idea that black people are disproportionately affected when it comes to a hurricane in Florida or natural disasters in general seems a little bit ridiculous, and I guess I'd have to see the studies. But even then, even if it was the case, the idea that the response or that funds should be used in a discriminatory fashion based on color of skin because of equity still isn't justified. It's still a disgusting disgusting concept. Here's a novel concept. Here's real anti-racism. How about nobody gets discriminated against? How about funds are used to help everyone? How about all of the communities that were negatively affected receive the funding that they need to rebuild, regardless of race or class? How is that so difficult for leftoids to say? They've taken this stance collectively, are not deserving of help. And considering the current economic situation in so many white working class neighborhoods, where industry has completely died, where fentanyl overdoses and alcoholism is skyrocketing through the roof, where people are legitimately suffering, poor, unable to afford basic necessities. The idea that these people should be neglected is so unethical, it's not even funny. It's actually crazy to even think that this stuff unironically comes out of these people's mouths. How could you say something like that and think that it's okay and think that you're on the righteous side fighting for equality? Equity is not equality, it's the exact opposite. Democrats plan to fight discrimination with discrimination. And that's not me saying that, that's not an assumption that I'm making, that is literally verbatim a direct quote from leftist woke thought leader and anti-racist or supposed anti-racist and social justice activist Ibram X. Kendi. He literally said that, and we've covered that quote in a couple videos in the past. The idea that these people are anti-racist is a complete farce. They are the real racists. A lot of people don't like that point. They say it's a political talking point, it's divisive, it's this, that, and the other, but no, it's true. Just listen to them speak and you'll hear everything that you need to hear. I mean, for Pete's sakes, they called Donald Trump a racist every single day non-stop for 6 years. They're still doing it. Meanwhile, how many legitimately terrible statements in regards to race has come out of the mouth of Mr. Joe Biden himself? It's almost countless. And actually, here's another example just from this week alone. Nancy Pelosi slammed for remarks about immigrants needing to, quote, pick crops. Pelosi's comments were in apparent reference to Florida Governor Ron DeSantis sending 50 illegal aliens to Martha's Vineyard earlier this month, a move that enraged the political left. Quote, right now, the best thing that we can do for our economy is comprehensive immigration reform, Pelosi said. We have a shortage of workers in our country. And you see, even in Florida, some of the farmers and the growers saying, why are you shipping these immigrants up north? We need them to pick crops down here. Not only is that a despicable comment, essentially implying that illegal migrants should be used as cheap labor to the benefit of the American economy, is a complete farce. But it's yet again another window into how the left thinks. Remember the infamous moment of Kelly Osbourne? I think it's Kelly, right? The daughter's Kelly. Anyways, it doesn't really matter. The Osbourne daughter on The View, challenging Donald Trump's immigration policies, claiming, who's gonna clean your toilet, Donald Trump? It's the same damn thing. These leftoids pretend that they're compassionate, yet they continue to enable every single system that leads to the suffering of people and certainly to the suffering of illegal migrants and minority communities, claim that they're anti-racist and that they're combating discrimination and racism, and then they turn around and act as vile, discriminatory, and racist as possible. These people are not the good guys. They certainly have a hero complex, and I guess they've somehow deluded themselves, they've convinced themselves that they're doing the right thing and saving the world and saving the planet. But the reality, history, their track record, tells a very, very different story, to say the least. The despicable Democrats strike again, highlighted by another viral Kamala Harris gaffe. No wonder they keep her in the basement right next to Sleepy Joe. Every single time these people make a public appearance, it's a complete disaster. That's what I got for you guys though. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel if you guys are up for it. I'm gonna get back to work. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.